All right, we are on the air. Welcome, everyone. This is Norbert Orlowitz, co-founder here at Futuristic Academy, and I am very excited for this interview that we've got here in store for you guys. This training is going to be right in line with everything that we've been training on, especially just in the last couple of weeks. We had our first hangout, and we were sharing with you guys how to discover and how to monetize your passion. I mean, that's really what we're all about here at the Futuristic Academy, is to do what you love and get paid. And we could not have a better guest trainer than Mr. Ted McGrath here. Ted, welcome from San Diego. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Ted, you know what? The first time I connected with you on the phone, Jonathan introduced me to you, and our first conversation on the telephone, just your energy, your passion, the words that you spoke really crystallized for me. I was just thinking to myself, we've got to work with this guy. Somehow we've got to develop a relationship because this Ted guy, he knows his stuff. He's got the results to prove it. He's worked with so many people, helping them to take their message to millions. And we've got to get him on somehow and get him to share his value and his training and his knowledge and his experience with our members and our community. So Ted, I'm really honored to have you here, and really just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you've got an event coming up, you've got so much going on, so I just want to thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge and experience with our community.
Oh, anytime, man. It's an honor to be here, so thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So for those of you that don't know who Ted is, because I didn't either, Ted is a very successful coach and trainer. He's actually the founder of 3 or 4 different brands.
Four
Different brands. One of his main brands is called Message to Millions, which is, like I said, exactly what we're all about, where he helps people discover their message, take their message to millions, and make millions doing that as well, which is right in line with what we do. He's also the founder of one of the largest associations training coaches and speakers. It's a high-level training for speakers and coaches. So this is a real honor to have you here, Ted. We're really glad to have you, and I think we'll probably start out. You've been in this industry for just 4 short years, which really is kind of a short amount of time, and in that short 4 years, you've built up a very successful brand, very successful business, multiple 7-figure business. You're coaching and training thousands of people. You've got hundreds of successful case studies. You're connected to some of the biggest leaders in this industry. I mean, I was just listening to an interview you did with Evan Pagan, and I know that you've got a lot of these high-level people that are learning from you, coming to your events. So you did that in such a short amount of time, just 4 years. We'd love to hear you share your story. How did you get into this? How did you discover to take your passion, your message, and take it to millions? What is it in your life that led you to this point?
That's a big question, but I'll dive in. So yeah, one of the things that I've done very well in this industry is speed. Speed and getting things done fast and helping people achieve success very, very quickly. And I'll talk about some of the people that I've helped do that in a moment. But if you want to jump into my story real quick, I think the speed for me in doing it initially came a lot from pain and like trying to get somewhere really, really fast. And the reason being, when I was about 6 years old, I remember sitting in my living room, and my dad just got home from work, and he was in the kitchen bickering with my mom and screaming and yelling at each other. My dad comes storming into the living room, and he looks at me, and if you could imagine hearing these words come out of your father's mouth, your mother and I are getting a divorce, we don't love each other anymore, and we don't love you. And as a 6-year-old kid, I was crushed. All the feelings I had were feelings of just being unworthy, that I had to prove myself, that I had to earn love, that I had to earn stuff through success and be really successful to feel worthy. And so I became a little achiever at 6 years old. Sounds crazy, but that's what was driving me, to achieve, and prove one day that I'm worthy. And so sure enough, by the time I was 21 years old in the professional world with a company called New York Life Insurance, which is one of the largest insurance companies in the world. I started, and my mentor looked at me and he said, I believe that you can come into this business and do 6 figures in income your first year. And I remember hearing that, and for me the motivator was not money. Still is not to this day. It was approval. And so I just put my head down and I worked 16, 17, 18-hour days, and sure enough, at the end of the year, 1 year later, I had built a 6-figure business, and upon getting the news, you would think that would be a day of massive celebration and a great day in my life, but I found myself at 4 o'clock in the morning on the kitchen floor, OD'd, overdosed on drugs, about a bag of cocaine, 2 pills of ecstasy, 15 drinks of alcohol, and I literally had my soul coming out of the top of my head, holding on to my brother who was there with me on the kitchen floor, taking my last breath. And miraculously, I was revived the next morning, and I figured, oh, I got it. I just need to work harder. If I make partner with this company, then I'll feel good enough. And put my head down for 5, 6 more years, and worked and worked and worked even more, 6, 7-day weeks, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-hour days. And sure enough, June 30th, 2005, I'm waiting on the news to hear whether or not I made partner, and my assistant walks into the office with this big New York Life envelope, you know, that's yellow with the official black New York Life stamp, and I'm opening up the envelope, and I'm like picturing that people are going to carry me around on their shoulders, and champagne's going to be popping, and it's going to be the greatest day of my life, and I'm 99.9999% sure I got this thing licked, and I open up the envelope, and I look at the first line, and I don't see my name. And then I look down the second line, no name, and then third line, no name, and then fourth line, no name, and then go down to the fifth line, and I see Ted McGrath, number 5 partner out of 500 partners for the #1 life insurance company in the country, and that's a huge accomplishment. Like, getting that for New York Life is like, it's like the creme de la creme. I mean, there's 20,000 people that try out for New York Life per year. Only 500 of them are partners, and only a small percentage ever make the top. And so I get this news, and upon getting the news, I'm feeling like that this is supposed to be the greatest day, and I feel this little bubble of excitement. And the bubble fades away, and then I just feel this anger and this rage and this sadness inside me, and I get this rush of heat up through my heart and through my face, and my face just goes totally red, and then it goes just completely like flushed, and then I hear this pop in my ear, and I hear this voice, and the voice says, "Is this all there is?" I remember walking to the ledge of the balcony, which is where my office was, and I remember looking out over the ledge, and I'm thinking to myself, no matter what I do, I can't win. Wow. And so I turned around, I walked into the New York Life office, I handed in my resignation letter, and I never returned again. And I moved out to California, and as I moved out to California, I'm thinking, oh, all my problems will be solved. California, everything will be great. I started up 2 companies as an entrepreneur, and then 2, 3 years later, I'm sitting on my couch with 3 houses in foreclosure, bills everywhere, my face in my hands, blew through, you know, $1 million, have a couple $1,000s left in my bank account, and I'm in a failing relationship. I can't even make her happy, and just my life sucks, and I'm wondering, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And that was the day where I discovered a process. I got an email that day, and there was a video that said, change your life, change your patterns, change your behavior. And as I got the video, I was like, I'll try anything at this point. And I just said, click, click, click. And I saw this video of this mad scientist talking about changing your life and changing your patterns and living in your full potential. And at this point, I was just like, buy, buy, buy. I'll buy anything at this point. And I bought this video, and I watched this guy, and it took me through this process that's based on a science that I use today and teach other people. And all of a sudden, I got present for the first time in my life to the feelings that I'd been running from. And as I got present, he asked me this question, and the question was, what's the problem? And I swear it was like an arrow pierced my heart, because I started to feel for the first time and got totally present to it. And as I started to feel what I was really feeling, I got this image, and this image took me back to 6 years old on the couch, and I'm sitting there on the couch, and I start seeing what really happened that day with my dad. I actually saw the truth for the first time. And my dad comes storming into the living room. And as he comes into the living room, what I had heard him say was, your mother and I are getting a divorce, we don't love each other anymore, and we don't love you. But what he really said was, your mother and I are getting a divorce, we don't love each other anymore, but we love you very much. And for
Wow.
the first time, I see the truth, and it's like this weight, like 1,000,000 pounds of unworthiness comes rolling off my shoulders. And I stood up energetically, and I didn't even know where I was. It didn't even feel like I was in my body, and I felt so free for the first time that for the first time I was like, I can actually do this. Like, I've been thinking about living my purpose for the last 10 years, and for the first time I'm like, I can actually do this. I'm here to make a difference. I want to serve people. I want to inspire people to transform their lives. And that day I created my blueprint, which is a blueprint that I've been teaching for the last 14 years that shows people how to package their knowledge, their wisdom, their experience, and how to take what they already know. It's like I had knowledge for 14 years or so that I hadn't been using. And so what I did was package that knowledge, that wisdom, that life experience into a blueprint, and I went out within the week, and I got my first client ever to pay me $3,000. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot of money. At the time, it was a lot because it's more than I had in my entire bank account. Today, my clients pay me over $100,000 to coach them. So initially that wasn't a lot, but to get paid for my knowledge and for somebody to pay me directly. See, I was used to doing deals at New York Life and making all kinds of money, but nobody was ever paying me for who I was. And so this was a breakthrough in my life. And the moment I went through that, I also stopped drinking. And for me, that was a massive problem that I had, and my whole family lineage. And I stopped drinking. It just faded away. I was done. It was like I could no longer put alcohol in my body. It's no longer possible. It's not even, I can be out at a bar, I can sniff wine, appreciate the smell of it, but no, it's impossible for me to even put it in my body. And so all this started to change, and then my family started, the whole dynamics, as I started to shift my dynamics, my family started to come to my seminars. My mom, my stepfather, after 40 years as a psychologist, the #1 psychologist in New Jersey for forensic psychology, my stepfather sits in there and he takes notes on how to build a lucrative and lifestyle-friendly business. And he's becoming a consultant in building a more lifestyle-friendly business and going in a different direction. My mom, after 65 years of never having a breakthrough, sat there and stood up in front of 150 people at my Message to Millions live event and said, for the first time in 65 years, this dark hole that I've been trying to fill up, I now see the treasure. My brother comes, his wife comes, my cousins come. The whole family dynamics have changed. So aside from the millions of dollars that I've made doing this, which is great because that gives me the lifestyle, that's what afforded me to be in Spain, Italy, and France in the last 2 weeks, just having fun and doing my thing. But that's a great lifestyle, but the impact that I've had on my family and the impact that I have on my clients that are now going through these processes is extraordinary. And the #1 key to all of this is the blueprint. It's the blueprint. And the blueprint changes the game because we show people, how do you take what you already know and how do you package it into a step-by-step process where you clearly communicate your value, and then you inspire your clients to pay you 2 to 3 and sometimes even 10 times more. One of my clients, Brandon Hawk, about 8 months ago was on his way flying to my event, Message to Millions. And on his way to the event, he's on the plane with his wife, and they're having this conversation. He says, let's just play hooky. Let's not go to the event. Let's just hang out in San Diego. And upon saying that, he had this little voice in his head, and Brandon was a pastor, and he had this little voice in his head that said, go to the event. So he went to the event and he showed up, and sure enough, here's a guy who was making probably $40,000 a year as a pastor. He's more than 10 times his income. He's almost 20 times his income in the last 8 months, and he had no idea how to sell. Was petrified of selling, and in fact, 24 hours within leaving the event, he signed up his first 10 clients. And so I share this stuff with you because he had his plan set. Like, we have a plan and programming and condition of how we're supposed to live our lives, and his life was he was going to build a home in Clyde, Texas on a $70,000 lot and live his life there, and his beautiful wife, beautiful kids, and he was content. Until he came and he realized, you know what, this life is not about just being content. This is about living a dream. This is about the thing that you've always wanted to do in your life, and that message that burns inside you that you're destined to share with the world. Like, it's the thing you're born to do, but most people, they hide in the 4 corners of their room in the dark hours of the night, you know, with this secret that they only tell themselves and they don't tell the world. And my line to them is, that's bullshit. Like, you got to get out there. You got to share your freaking gift. Like, if you're not serving people with your gift, you're doing a disservice to the world. And that's what I firmly believe. So this isn't just about us. This is about getting out of our own way to go serve humanity. And that's what I do best. And I wanted to make the changes closest to home, changes with myself first and my family first, so that then I could impact humanity. And that's how it's happened for me, man.
Wow. Ted, you kind of leave me a little bit speechless when you know, when you share that story and you share just your transformation in your life and stuff, and you know, when you were talking about your story, and I want to get into your blueprint specifically, you know, because I think that's really going to be valuable for people to hear that information, some specific information, how they can take their message and take it out to millions. But I wanted to deal with something just a little bit, you know, before we get into that, because it's interesting. You know, when you're sharing your story, it hit me on a very deep level, because I went through, you know, a similar kind of traumatic experience to get me to be able to clearly see the life that I had been hiding from myself. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, we can lie to other people, but it's when we're lying to ourselves, though, that's really when we're preventing ourselves from moving forward. At least that's what I discovered in my life. And as soon as I was able to see the truth, like that moment where you saw the truth of what really happened, not what you perceived, you know, and what you took away with you, but what really happened, that moment where I saw the truth of how I'd really been, not what I was telling myself, not what I was telling other people about myself and who I believed I was, but when I saw that, the truth of how I really was, of how things really were. And then I was able to say, wow, that's how I've really been showing up. This is what I've really been believing. Now we can make that change. Now we can move forward. It's interesting, in your life, you know, you're sharing with me 3 specific events and stories, traumatic experiences, where you were to everybody on the outside, it looked like you were creating success, you were moving forward in your life, you were achieving, and yet inside you were broken and you weren't moving forward. And I see these patterns repeat in people all the time, and in my work with coaching, you know, aspiring entrepreneurs, I see that, you know, for many people, we can give them a blueprint, we can teach them marketing, we can teach them all these things, and a lot of people think that that will solve their problems. But it's really not until they address those deeper core issues that are really blocking them. So when we think about that, before somebody can really, and I'm sure you address this in your seminars, and I'd love to hear your input on this and your experience on this, working with thousands of people and coaching them. Before somebody can really move forward and have the confidence to charge people for their value, because that's really what we're asking people to do. You know, that first time where you accepted that $3,000 in exchange for your value directly, that's a big moment for people. And what I find is that most people undervalue themselves, and they have a very difficult time even considering the idea of charging people for their own value. What's the mental and emotional shift that has to take place for somebody to step into and own their value?
Yeah, so the first thing is that you have to, everybody has to get, is that everybody has a message. And so you have to understand that. And then the other thing is that you're not competing with other people. Because the moment you start comparing yourself to another human being is when you have low self-value. Comparison creates that. Collaboration never does. And also the thing to know is that you're so unique. Even if you said, Ted, I want to teach people how to get their message out, you're so different from me, and you have so many gifts that I don't have, that the way you would deliver it would be so uniquely different than anything that I could ever deliver, that you would attract different people, their experience would be different, everything would be different, and that's what they buy. They buy the experience. So they buy the experience of you. And so what most people do, and this isn't, you don't need to make a mental shift of this, you just need to be aware of this, and then I'll tell you how to deal with the beliefs of I'm not good enough and all that in a second. But the mental shift is that you're so close to your gift. You're like a fish in water, and you're swimming around in water, and you have no idea how miraculous water is. So you're swimming around or walking around every day with your gift, and you have no idea how miraculous your gift is, because people walk up to you all the time for the thing that you do naturally, that you do free, that you don't even think twice about doing, and they say to you, oh, you're so amazing at that thing that you did, thank you so much, and you're like, poof, that thing, I do it all the time. And you discount it right there when a miracle has shown up to appreciate what you do, and a conversation is opening up, and then because of our own rules of how we see the world and our own perceptions, we shut off that channel and that miracle, and then we walk around and we wonder, where are all the people that want to work with me? Who's going to pay me? And somebody just showed up to pay you a compliment that could lead to your career, and you shut it down. And then you walk around a week later, and then somebody says, oh, like you're amazing at that. Like, thank you so much for doing that. You say, oh, that thing, I do it all the time, and you move on. So your gift, you were born with it. So you discount it naturally because you live with it every single day. And most people are doing it for free. You give advice every day, you coach people every day, but most people don't have the structure set up, and because they don't have the structure up, they don't succeed in it. Now, the reason they don't take action on the structure is really simple, is because they have some belief about themselves or some story that they tell themselves to keep themselves safe. And all of it's a story, right? If I got sucked into my story of this whole thing of not feeling worthy, I mean, that's a story that I held for a long time. Well, the moment I began to shift it, I let go of the story, my life changed. So people hold on to stories to keep themselves safe. Your stories don't serve you, but they actually do serve you, because the serving of you is keeping you safe, and but the disservice is that's keeping your gift from the world. So the first thing to do, I'll give you a tool right now to actually be able to access your best self, so that you can take and make decisions from a place of power and confidence, rather than from a place of the story or the unworthiness or the uncertainty or the doubt. And it's a really simple exercise, and it's based on a science. And the science is this, before I take you through the 2-minute exercise, the science is this, that all of life is driven by potential. So you really got to get this, because if you look around everywhere, like I'm looking around, and there's water everywhere. If you can see, there's freaking trees everywhere. I'm downtown. There's buildings everywhere, right? And there's everywhere I look around, there's life is driven by potential. Like the trees aren't struggling to grow. Let's face it, right? They're not. The water is not struggling to flow. It just flows. And so for us as human beings, we are also, if all of life is driven by potential, that means every situation that shows up in our life is also driven by potential. So right now, the interview that you and I are doing, it's driven by potential. You showing up in your best, me showing up in my best, the listeners showing up in their best. And if we're all attentive and present, we potentialize the situation as a group to serve humanity, right? So if every group is driven by potential in every situation, that also means that each individual that's part of this discussion right now is also driven by what's called their full potential self. So I want you to get this. All of life driven by potential. Every situation, because you have a life, and then in life there's situations, so every situation is driven by its potential. And then every human being is part of a situation. This is a situation right now. So every human being is also driven by their full potential self. Now here's the kicker. If you get this, you've got to get this intellectually first, and then you got to get it in the body and emotionally. But if you get this intellectually first, it'll change your life. All of life driven by potential. Every situation is driven by potential. Every human being is driven by their full potential self, which means that human beings, we have problems, right? Every problem that shows up in your life, this is scientific fact. Every problem that shows up in your life is driven by its potential solution. I want you to get that.
Wow.
It is massive and huge if you understand this. And people say, well, everything that shows up is a gift. Okay, well, I get the theory and it sounds great, but what's the science? The science is every problem that shows up already has the solution within it. Yeah. And what happens with people is, it's just like the pain that you might be carrying in your life right now, your message is in the pain. And people want to look outside and say, let me follow the message of this person and do what they're doing and look outside myself, when your true message will never come by looking outside yourself. Your true message comes from your pains, your problems. They show up because the solution and the message and the gift is there. But what do people do? They don't look inside. They look outside and they go, okay, let me follow this guy because he's having success, and let me model what he's doing, and I'll model. Modeling's okay, but modeling to the point where you're just doing exactly what they're doing is stupid. You got to use your gift and then take ideas from people, but on your gift. So your problem that shows up today, your solution's already within it. Every problem is driven by its potential solution. So the question is, well, Ted, how do you access this thing? Like, if my problem's showing up, how do I solve the problem? It's simple. I'll take you through it right now. Take a deep breath in through your nose. hold it. Out through your mouth. Deep breath in through your nose. Hold it. Out through your mouth. Another deep breath. Hold it. Out through your mouth. And now go to a peaceful place in your mind. Could be a sunset, a waterfall, a favorite place from childhood, a beach. Go to a peaceful place right now and just be totally present. Feel the sand maybe through your toes, or the wind blowing on your face, or the sun shining on your head. And just be in that peaceful place. And now, while you're there, imagine you at your best coming towards you. Imagine you more powerful, more inspired, more loving, more caring, more vibrant, more dynamic, more joyful, more connected, more happy, more loving. Imagine you at your absolute best coming towards you right now. And feel what you're feeling at your best. See what you're seeing. And feel into the knowing of who you are. And now ask your best self, what's the problem I need to work on right now? And write it down. And as you look at this problem, and it could be something so simple, and you might be thinking, no, I want to solve this problem. No, it's the problem that's coming up for you right now. That's the problem. And my question is right now, because this is what leads to the blueprint that I'm going to share with you today. It leads to mastering the sales conversation, which I'm going to share with you today. It leads to creating a powerful story, which I'm going to share with you today. It leads to all these things. Without solving that problem, you'll never unleash your potential. And that's the real problem. The real problem needs a real solution. The problem is most people, they create problems in their life, and it's what's called safe problems. They create problems to stay safe and stay busy rather than focus on the one thing they're destined to do and step out of their comfort zone and do it. And when you're in your full potential is giving you the real problem so you will grow today and having you focus on it. Now, I can help anybody shift whatever that is. I mean, I was on a ski trip going with 100 people to, a month ago, and I'm sitting on the bus with this guy, and he looks over to me and he starts talking and says, man, I got some anxiety to go up on the mountain. And I said, do you just have anxiety going to ski, or do you have anxiety all the time? And within 3 minutes, I shifted his anxiety. He went up and skied, and then I saw him 4 weeks later. And then 4 weeks later, when I saw him, he said, oh, by the way, I just got off all my medications because of what you did for 3 minutes on the bus. And so this isn't to say that everybody has anxiety, but whatever your issue is, his anxiety was preventing him from skiing, from making money, from doing all the things he wants to do. So you might think, well, my problem is money, but your problem isn't money. Your problem is the underlying issue that is stopping you from making the money. You might think my problem is I don't have the right program, but it's not the right problem. The problem is that you don't value yourself enough, perhaps, to charge what you're actually really worth. And if you value yourself, you create the most compelling program in the world. I remember the day I created my $100,000 program, I was on the plane flying, and I said to myself, how do I create something that's just going to change the game in this industry? Something that's just going to be totally dynamic, totally different that nobody else is doing, and literally that nobody else is doing. And so I dreamed it up and I created it. And at the time, was I afraid to do it? Sure. When I pitched it from the stage for the first time, did I have fear? Absolutely. But I went into the fear and I stepped into my best self, and I realized that fear is energy. And if I use it and I pay attention to what the real issue is, I can unfold the potential of that situation. And of course, my first time out, I had massive success with it, right? So these are the things, these are the tools. Every day you should be connecting with your full potential, and this is where your message will come from. This is where being master at sales will come from. This is where your true story will come from. It comes from the truth. So stop trying to present yourself in a way that makes you look like the most successful person in the world. Like, I don't care about that anymore. Do I make millions of dollars? Yes. Do I love what I do? Yes. Do I put on seminars that are packed all around the world? Yes. Do I travel around the world? Yes. But the greatest part for me is that I'm real. I'm real with what my fears are. I still have fears. I still, showing up to this call right now, I still have fears, doubts, and uncertainties. You know, that drifts in for a split second. And then all of a sudden I get recentered and I go back to being me. So you're always going to have some essence of uncertainty. Uncertainty is life. But if you welcome the uncertainty, that's where the magic is. If you welcome the certainty, that's where the safety is, and you don't make any progress and you go round and round in circles, which is why people who don't take action on stuff, they wake up 10 years later thinking they're taking action, but they're not stepping out of their comfort zone and they're in the same spot. Make sense?
Genius, Ted. Just
Thanks.
absolute genius. I'm learning so much from this. This is resonating so much, you know, with other training that I've done as well. And Ted, I know that you are changing lives right now. The people that are watching this, I'm sure, guaranteed, they're having huge shifts emotionally and mentally just with what you're sharing here today. So I'm really excited to get into this blueprint. So because I know that this is your framework, this is the core thing that drives your entire business, all of your products, all of your training, all of the success that your students are having, is this blueprint. So let's get into it. Tell us about what is this blueprint? Why do we need a blueprint? What is this process that you take people through?
Yeah, and this blueprint works for any service-based entrepreneur, financial services people, doctors, attorneys, holistic practitioners, consultants, coaches, speakers. I mean, if you're working with clients, like this is the game changer with the blueprint. And this blueprint will monetize every single aspect of your business when you get really clear on what it is.